Hello. I wanted to give a quick update on MidnightBSD and kind of what we've been working on. Currently, we're working on merging a bunch of features in code from FreeBSD 12.4-ish. Basically, the latest, like stable as of last month, is kind of our target. So, over the development of MidnightBSD, the original release 0.1 was based on FreeBSD 6.0 code, kind of 6.0, 6.1 timeframe. And we've imported a couple different versions since then. We did 7 and 9 and 10 and 11. We're currently working on 12. So if you check out the master branch in Git right now, that's actually the code that we're working on. It doesn't currently build at the moment. We're kind of making a lot of progress on it every day. There were some issues with the compiler build. So part of that process, we're upgrading to LLVM 13. The last release that we released in June, 2.2, that has LLVM 10 in it. Compiler update. It's got a new version of OpenSSL. It's got a new version. It's got some bug fixes for bin utils. It's got new versions of a ton of different libraries. It has a lot of the same functionality drivers and things that FreeBSD 12 has. And then we're kind of re-adding our customizations, and we're going to look into the installer, the bootloader code. There's still a couple pieces there we need to clean up. Part of the FreeBSD 12 code base changes, they moved a bunch of things, like there used to be like a source Etsy directory that had all of your configuration files in it. Now it's kind of spread out through the system. Since we customized all of those, we're kind of moving those around now and trying to get all that to work. So it's kind of a mess at the moment, but it's going to be pretty cool when we're done. As far as the last release went, 2.2, so we released that in June for AMD 64 and i386. So that release went pretty well. We were able to do a couple package builds after. I think things are in pretty good shape right now as far as packages go. The ports tree right now has a couple of issues. We're in the middle of upgrading a bunch of X11 ports, and we're updating Ruby. The default Ruby got upgraded to 3.0. There's a couple things with Ruby gems that are still broken with that we need to work on. We've done a bunch of bug fixes to the package manager. So if you were to do a build off the latest stable branch 2.2 from Git, there's a bunch of bug fixes in there for the package manager. You can also check out the package manager directly and build it that way. It's there were some memory leaks, there were some bugs, a bunch of things got fixed in there. So if you had issues like doing an upgrade when 2.2 came out from a previous release, I think that you definitely want to get the new package manager before you do like a big upgrade at this point, just because the upgrade logic's gotten a lot of bug fixes. So we made some good progress on that. I've had a lot of good suggestions lately. For example, someone suggested that we, modify the installer so that it tries to set up some of the graphics card settings. Like if you have an NVIDIA card, it would kind of configure the NVIDIA driver and things to some degree to help people out with that. I've got a backlog ticket in our Jira instance for that. We've also had a lot of infrastructure changes kind of in the past year with the project. So many of you might know, like I host the project out of my basement primarily. So I have a server rack in the basement with 4 servers right now. We've got 2 that are bare metal that are running MidnightBSD. One's basically doing a lot of the core services, webmail, DNS, FTP, that kind of stuff. We have a second server that's running it's primarily a file server, but it does have some databases on it, and we're slowly starting to migrate some of that stuff into virtual machines. So we have 2 virtual machine environments now. Our older one is a VMware ESXi box. We've been doing package builds off of that for a couple of years. We started to add like kind of production services, web apps that are related for the project, like the App Store. So if you go to app.midnightbsd.org, that's running in a virtual machine now. We also have a second box. It's actually running FreeBSD 13, and we're doing like Beehive VMs with that right now. So we kind of added that for additional capacity for package builds. And then after that, we actually had someone donate a package build box for us. That's kind of remotely hosted. So we've been using that to do the AMD 64 builds. There's some maintenance kind of going on right now with that, I believe. So we haven't been doing it the last few weeks, but that's been helping a lot because it saves a lot on bandwidth usage and really helps us a lot with keeping everything off our main servers here. We have to copy the packages back, if it's a successful package build, but if it's not, we just delete them. So that's been convenient. We've been doing some server upgrades and things are, going pretty well. So I just added an extra SSD to our primary server for one of the Z pools to add some redundancy because that was a single SSD, so kind of bad. That was actually what the FTP server was running on too. So we have some redundancy there, so yay. As far as kind of goals of where we're headed here, once we do the FreeBSD 12 merge, the plan after that would be obviously to go back to ports and get everything building and working on the new version, upgrade a couple things additionally, add the DRM KMod code for the newer version so that we can get graphics acceleration for newer GPUs, because that is a big problem right now. I've had a lot of users concerned about how old the graphics support is, and personally, it's kind of annoying me. I just bought an RX 570 for one of my desktops here, actually, so I could run accelerated graphics on an AMD card. I've got a couple NVIDIA older cards to test with right now. Like I've got a 1030 and some 710s, but kind of trying to get the AMD stuff working right now. I did fix the NVIDIA drivers. Most of them are working in ports again, and have been updated in the last month or two. I think the two oldest drivers are broken right now, which are 32-bit only for really old cards. But if you have a more recent card, like a 30 series, 20 series, 10 series, or probably even a 9 series, you're fine. You can use the drivers we've got in there. I think the driver for the 710s is even working. So that's pretty far back. I'd like to try to get the other ones working, but it hasn't been a high priority. Most of my time right now is working on getting that FreeBSD 12 merge going. So I'm kind of back and forth between working on stuff and then doing Jenkins builds to see where we're going. I also recently updated our Jenkins infrastructure to a new version, which required a new version of Java. So I've updated the binary Java ports. So the 32-bit port is now available for like OpenJDK 11, which is pretty nice for 32-bit users. They were stuck on Java 8 before. And I needed that to actually run a Jenkins slave node to do 32-bit builds for testing the OS. So that's working. So that's kind of where I've been at, and primarily where my focus has been. There's been some bug fixes with the installer. We're trying to make some progress there. I know it's not really what people are hoping for when they install. Still, it's gotten better. It's starting to do more. I've gotten a lot of the integrations fixed in the last version or so of MidnightBSD. As far as default installing, the MidnightBSD desktop port does a lot of the post-install steps for Xorg and kind of gets it where you can log in now, which is great. But, if you have a video driver, that's still kind of an issue right now. So I think that's the biggie, just getting driver support working. As far as hardware goes, I know people ask me sometimes, like, what hardware am I running? What currently works with MidnightBSD? I can tell you the biggest blocker really is Wi-Fi and graphics drivers. As far as Wi-Fi, I usually get an Intel like 8265 or something like that and run that. It doesn't run in AC mode. It'll run in 802.11n in the current release of MidnightBSD, but it does work. Some of the Realtek adapters will work as well. As far as graphics, NVIDIA cards work on desktops pretty well with the binary driver right now. Really old AMD cards work. I've had like really old, like HD 6500 or something like that in a couple systems that have worked. And I just got the 570 to kind of play around with that. The new release will help with that a bit. But as far as, motherboards and things like that, I've got it running currently on a 3950X. I've got it running on a couple 5800 Ryzen chips. I've got it on an Intel 11 900K, and also on a ThinkPad A485, which has a 2500U graphics chip or CPU that has a Vega graphics. The Vega graphics are not supported, but everything else in the laptop's working. I've got an Intel. I did replace it with an Intel Wi-Fi, but everything, the webcam and everything works in that model of ThinkPad, aside from the graphics acceleration. So we're getting there. I'm hoping that, I can kind of work on getting more drivers and kind of expand the support for hardware. Again, I haven't really done a big push on that in a while. But mainstream CPUs are working pretty well. I haven't tested 12th gen processor yet, so that's something that's still I haven't had a chance to look at an Alder Lake system. So I don't know if someone's running one with MidnightBSD. Let me know. I'd love to know if that's working or not, and how well it's working. That's pretty much it. I can do another follow-up video if anybody has questions. Just post them on the chat after this video, and I can do that. Actually, I just noticed in chat someone mentioned the Star Trek theme. Yes, I'm wearing a lot of Star Trek stuff here. Almost all of the servers are actually Star Trek themed. So our main server is named Stargazer. We have a DS9. We have a Constellation, Cerrito. We've had a Voyager. We've had a Delta Flyer. A lot of Star Trek themed things. So, in fact, in MidnightBSD, if you don't configure a network setup, it actually names the system Redshirt. So that's kind of where that came from. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for listening.